Welcome to Toy Business Unboxed, your gateway to the secrets of the toy industry. Here, Jason Hsieh, a toy entrepreneur and expert in the
Every
field.
product we develop is really inspired by some of the real life experience that we have with our son, major retailers.
Yeah.
Check. Is it? We think this is cool. Is this cool?
The thing with Amazon is just it become more and more complicated over the years. Yeah, maybe you can also consider to create more online resources.
We'll guide you through the enchanting world of toy design, marketing, and manufacturing. Now let the unboxing begin.
Welcome back to another episode of Toy Business Unboxed podcast, where we unwrap story behind the toys and the game company that's shaping our world. In today's episode, I'm thrilled to welcome Helaina, the founder of Kids Table Board Gaming, for a deep dive into the world of family-friendly board games and also kind of sharing her own entrepreneur journey in the toy industry. Thank you so much for joining with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, so to start out for our audience and listener here, what inspired you to start the company, and how was your background in education influence some of your game design process?
I have been a teacher for over 20 years, and I have been teaching from grade 1 to grade 8, and all sorts of subjects. But somehow I managed every year to bring in tabletop gaming into my classroom, and also trying to gamify the classroom where I can. Students learn best when they think that they're not learning. And so that's really where the journey began. Yeah. When I had my own children and I played games with them, I started realizing that while the games that we play together, like Snakes and Ladders and Sorry and those sorts of games, and Monopoly Junior, have some very good things in them for kids to learn, like taking your turn, learning how to lose in a safe way. That didn't do much for me as a parent. Okay. I found that I loved spending the time with my children, but it was not exciting for me. It wasn't, making me enjoy the thing that we were doing, just the fact that I was spending time with my kids. So I sort of set out to see if I could find a game where I would enjoy playing and my kids could enjoy playing as younger players, newer players. And there really wasn't anything out there on the market. There were family games that were a little bit too intense, and strategy games that were too intense for my younger children. And then the sort of mass market games that are exciting and fun for kids. They play it 1 or 2 times, but not engaging for me. So my husband and I designed a game called Food Fighters, and we realized that this game would be great for kids and adults to play together, because there sort of is a level playing field there where I can play with as much strategy as I want to, and my kids could just play the game and enjoy the game without really thinking 2 steps ahead. As they learn how to play the game, they start realizing that there is a little bit of strategy that they can use. So we sort of deem that as being emergent strategy, so that they start understanding. So we designed this game, and I wanted to make it myself. I didn't want to pitch it to a company. I wanted to see if I could take my entrepreneurial spirit and turn it into a successful game. And it was. We started on Kickstarter, and we funded the game, and we made the game, and we gave it to our backers. And I found a way to get it on the shelves in some stores in the US and Canada. And then I thought, well, we did that successfully once. Let's try to do that again. And now we're, by the end of this year, we'll be 24 games deep.
Oh, wow. Oh,
yeah,
nice.
It's really amazing. And it's been 9 years. And so in 9 years, we've gone through a lot with the games. And also we got to a point where I couldn't do the teaching and the games at the same time. So here I am. Now I am a full-time game publisher.
I see. Well, that's a very interesting journey. So, and how do you, I guess my next question is, how do you strike the balance between creating games that are accessible to children, yet is also engaging for the parents at the same time?
Right. Well, I think I start from a really good place, first of all, because I am a parent and also because I was a teacher for so long.
Yeah,
And my number one job as a teacher was to engage kids.
true.
And that engagement doesn't stop just at children, it goes to the adults as well. So, what we try to do is find games where we'll be able to do that thing where I said, when we made Food Fighters, sort of level the playing field, where we
Mhm.
can have a game that is strategic enough for adults to feel like they are doing something in the game, and also easy enough for kids to play the game anyways and still
Mm,
enjoy the things that they're playing.
okay.
So with all of our games, it comes with a full rule set, and
Mhm.
we actually make suggestions in the rules where you can take certain things out to make
Mhm.
it more accessible for younger kids or even newer
Mhm.
players, because as we know, it's easier to learn something these when it's on the easier side than it is when it is more difficult. So
Yes, of
yeah.
course. I see, I see. And you say you have total of 24 games that's currently on the market? And
So we actually have in the middle of making games for families,
uh,
we came across a game that we really wanted to make, but it wasn't a family weight game. It was
oh,
an adult strategy game,
okay. Yeah.
where it takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours to play it, and it's a pretty crunchy game.
Yeah.
And so I started a second brand
Oh,
for
wow.
our company.
Okay. Yeah.
And in fact, I actually have 3 brands now, but that's another story.
Oh, okay.
And so between the 2 brands or the 3 brands, we have at the end of 2024, we will have 24 games on the shelves. Yeah,
Whoa. Okay. Okay. So the three, what is the reason behind having three different brands? Of course, one maybe is for adult, one's for younger kids. How about the
right.
third one that you have?
So the third one was we picked up this game that my husband had actually done the art and graphic design for when it was originally made about 15 years ago. And
Mm.
the company who was making it decided that they didn't want to make it anymore. And
Oh,
I was very interested in it because it was one of my favorite games. And
yeah.
when I approached the designers, they it took a little bit of coaxing, but they had decided that we were the right publisher for them. And that
Mm.
line of games, which it is now a line of games, we have several of them.
Yeah.
It didn't fit in any of the categories we had. And then I brought
Oh,
on a partner. So with
I
that
see.
partner, we're making this one line of games that is specific
Mhm.
to this game. So
I
yeah,
see. I see. I
yeah,
see. Are they all selling under the same company then? I just wondering how do you structure it? Do you just have three different trademarks that's all registered under the same company, or do you have like
correct.
multiple company structure?
I have, well, we have 2 companies.
Hmm.
One is KTBG Inc., and under that company is, the KTBG, or the Kids Table Board Gaming, and Burnt Island Games.
Okay.
And, in the other company, the other company is called Age of Gaming,
Yeah.
and that company makes a line of games called Endeavor.
I see, I see, I
Yeah,
see. And I think board game marketing is a little bit different than toy marketing. And as you already know, I also own a toy company
yeah.
myself. And one of my, just out of curiosity, as far as digital marketing goes for board games, how do you typically create like marketing content to really promote and get people to know the game? Because there's so many board game in the market as well.
That's right,
Do you
yes.
have any specific marketing strategy that was working well for you guys?
Yeah, so, at this point, we are very married to having, um, pledge managers or Kickstarter campaigns. And the reason that is because it sort of focuses us into
Mm,
doing the marketing that is necessary to get our games out there.
true.
Within the board game hobby industry, Kickstarter is very, very well known.
Yes,
And
yes, yes.
uh, we get reviewers, we make a video, We have, the different components of the game laid out on the page, and so it forces us into starting that marketing journey for the
Sure.
game.
Okay.
And so when the game goes to retail, it's very easy for us to say, have a look at our Kickstarter
Got it.
campaign, and you'll
Okay.
get everything you need to know from there.
Sure.
And one of the other big things is we try to have influencers within the hobby board game market do reviews for us. So that's number one.
Sure.
And number two, we do in the hobby games industry have a very big space. And so a lot of our digital marketing goes through Meta.
Mhm.
And that very much works for us.
Oh, how is the return on advertising spend with Meta for you, the brand so far? Just high
Um,
level.
I mean, it just depends on what game, and
Mhm.
where we are. I have typically done a 3 to 5 times ROI, and sometimes depending on the game, it will go even lower than that. So or
Mhm.
sorry, lower than that. So we're very happy for what we've been able to do.
Mhm.
Right now, we're marketing a game called How to Save a World, and
Mhm.
it's going to be on Kickstarter at the end of May. And
Mhm.
we're actually working with a company called BackerKit to do
Oh, okay.
our marketing for that. Do you know BackerKit?
No, I haven't heard of that, but there's a lot of Kickstarter company out there. There's like hundreds. So,
Right, right, there are.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
one of the biggest ones that does the pledge manager, so takes
Mhm.
the backers from Kickstarter and converts them over and into manageable, information.
Mhm.
That platform actually has a very good, space within the hobby games industry, and so, they have been doing a lot of our marketing for us
Mhm.
on Facebook specifically, but also
Mhm.
on Instagram and,
Mhm.
from there. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. And does a lot of those digital marketing and creative also translate to other online marketplaces like Amazon or Walmart for you guys?
Yeah, so we've been working the last couple years on creating A+ pages for Amazon, and that marketing helps us get reviews on our games, which is, as you know, brings your product higher into the rotation on
Sure.
Amazon. And we're just moving into doing advertising with Amazon specifically on a specific game. So we have a game that was actually designed by 2 kids,
Oh, wow.
and it's
Mhm.
a really neat game where you are making recipes out of dice. It's called Dice Veggies, and you're
Interesting.
taking a cardboard cleaver and you're cutting the dice away from a block.
Yeah.
But it translates very nicely into visuals, and
Mhm.
we've been selling it very well, and we know that Amazon is gonna do really well for us as well. So we're
I
moving
see.
into doing some Amazon marketing.
Oh, well, are you doing that in-house or how does that setup work?
Yeah, so we are doing it in-house. The company that we use to distribute our games,
Mhm.
runs our Amazon sales.
Mhm.
So they're sort of, in charge of making all that happen, but
Mhm.
that's coming up very soon. So
I
we're
see.
excited because 'cause we've
Interesting.
never done that before, and,
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where that takes us, and hopefully it takes us into a very different place than we are now.
For sure, yeah. So
Yeah.
Amazon is definitely a kind of a tricky platform to navigate sometimes. There's a lot of
Yes. Yeah.
landmine that you can step on and blow up.
Yes. Yep. Yep. That's
So that's usually my experience with Amazon since we manage a lot of toy brand on Amazon currently.
true. Mhm.
So what role do you see board game playing in the family dynamic and how does your company contribute to that?
I love that question so much, especially because we're looking at it with a toy industry lens.
Mhm.
So, when I look at the toys that my kids have played with over the years,
Yeah.
there are very few that engage me as well. I might
Mhm.
sit next to my child while they're playing with their toy, but I
Yeah.
don't engage with it other than,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like Lego or something that speaks to more people.
Yeah, sure.
The difference between a toy and a game is engagement, and engagement for people, not just person.
Sure.
It's nice to watch my kids playing with their toys and their friends, but I'm typically not doing it with them. So, number
Yeah.
one, it brings people together, and not just kids. It brings everyone together, and that's what our games try to do, is span the ages, so that we can sit down and play a game with our 4-year-old and the adults and the grandparents, and everybody is enjoying themselves. And once you get everyone around the table engaged and enjoying themselves, then you actually are having real experiences together. And you can talk about, remember last week when we played that game and you did the thing and we were so excited that you did that thing? That doesn't happen with a kid sitting down with a toy and playing with a toy, not in the same way. So we really believe that our games, specifically because they are tailor-made for different age groups, really allows that bonding to happen.
Okay. That kind of lead right into my next question. When you're designing the game, what are some of the key principle of value that you look at when that guide your approach to like both game design and also storytelling as part of the game too?
Well, for us, it has to be engaging. So we all experience the world not just through one mode. We are intelligent beings, and we think, but we also touch and we hear and we notice things. And to me, a game is not just engaging when it's fun to play, but with the way it looks and the way it feels and the way it sounds. And so when we look for games to make, or when we're designing games, those are the things that we're looking for. Number one, is it fun to play? And is everyone going to be engaged? Number two, does it have table presence? Am I going to want to look at this thing on my table more than once, more than twice? Am I going to want it to be on my shelf and say, look at these beautiful games that I have? So we make sure that all of our games are beautiful. But there's a very good example of like that multimodality with a game, with our game Fossilis, which it's a 3D dig site where you're moving tiles around, and these are very Fossilis, Fossilis. So you're moving tiles around, and they're thick, chunky tiles, and you're moving them around on 3D board. And underneath are pits, and in the pits are, yes, exactly, are actual, they're not actual, but they're dinosaur bones, where you need to use a pair of tweezers and actually pull the bones out of the 3D dig site. And so you are not just excitedly making this museum filled with dinosaurs that you've got the bones for, but you are also experiencing. So that's a 3D dig site where your character is going to move the tiles off, and there are the bones, and you use those tweezers to pull them out. And so it's not just tactile, also like the sound of the tiles moving around and the sound of pulling the dinosaur bones out really makes you feel something, like you're actually doing something.
I love the design. Yeah. For those of you that's listening to the podcast, you can also watch the video that she had on her website, and we'll make sure we include a website link in the show note as well for the listener.
Thank you. So, and when I think about our game, to me, that feels the most engaging in and using many of my senses. This is the one game that really does it all. And so, I mean, everybody wanted to be a paleontologist when they were a child, and right? And you can do that with this game. You actually can do that. You're digging out bones.
What is the age recommendation for this game?
So with this game, we say about 10 and up. You could go to 8 and up, but if you take certain things out of the game to make it a little bit easier, you can go lower.
Is this one currently on Amazon as well? I'd love to buy one for my son, actually.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a perfect example of the next question I want to ask. Like, can you, because I haven't, for my toy company, we haven't designed or actually go through a product development for creating a tabletop board game. I can
Mhm.
imagine the product development process is very different than, creating and designing a toy.
Yes.
So can you kind of walk us through, like, for this particular game that we have,
Sure.
what we're discussing, how long does it take from idea to, concept design to prototyping to like the real product?
Right. Well, I saw this game on a table, and it was made out of Lego at the time. It was a prototype made out of Lego that had, the tiles onto the 3D dig site, and that 3D dig site was all Lego. And when I saw it, I was like, I knew we had to make it. I knew that this was gonna be our game. But there
Yeah.
were a lot of things we needed to think about. So, first of all, we had to make the gameplay work for us. And
Mhm.
it was great when we first played it, but it had to become our game.
Mhm.
So, uh, from the time that I saw it on the table until the time that it was on shelves took about 2.5 years.
Oh, whoa. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Oh.
So we go through probably like a year of developing
Oh.
the game.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
then there was actually the engineering of the board itself, and we have a partner that we've worked with many, many times. They're called
Mhm.
Game Trays, and they designed the board while Josh, who is our creative director, designed how it was going to work.
Mm.
Um, so you can see on that 3D dig site around the four corners, there are these little knobs, and we
Mm.
actually have a top to it. Where after you sprinkle the bones in, you can shake it up so you don't know where the bones are.
Oh, okay.
And you slide a piece. It's like a piece of cardboard. You slide it in through between the top and the bottom,
Yeah.
and you take off the top, and you still can't see what's down in the pits, and you place the tiles on, and then you slide it out. And
Oh.
so
Hmm.
it's really neat engineering. So Josh designed that piece of it, and that took probably in itself took about 6 months to make happen. Um,
Oh,
and
I
then we
see.
had to go through a couple of different iterations of it because we had to have it sent. We do our manufacturing in China, so we had to have it sent from China
Mhm.
and look at if it works. And there are tweaks that you need to make here and there. And of course, everything is made out of a mold, so that mold needed to change, and it takes a month and a half to 2 months to make the mold itself. So,
Yeah.
there are a lot of things. So once we had that sort of figured out, we had our Kickstarter campaign. The Kickstarter campaign was a month long, and we went through the Kickstarter successfully. It was our most at that time. It was our most successful Kickstarter campaign. Uh,
Oh, congrats. How much money do you raise on Kickstarter for this?
um, I believe it was about. I should check before I say anything,
Okay.
because also
Yeah.
we're in Canada, so everything is in Canadian
Uh,
dollars.
oh, sure.
But we had more backers and more money than we had ever raised on a campaign. So
Yeah.
we had 4,600 backers, just more than that,
Whoa.
and
Nice.
we raised $232,000 Canadian.
Oh,
Um,
congrats. Okay.
which for us was really fantastic because the previous one we had 1,500 backers and $60,000 was raised. So it was a big jump for
Yeah,
us.
it's a big jump. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
and then from there, we kept jumping. Our Kickstarter, our number of backers got higher, and we raised more money. And we've continued to do that since. It's
Mhm.
gone up and down, but it's been really great for us. Um,
Yeah.
so I forgot where I was going with this. What was I talking about?
I think we're talking about the development process and how long it take from concept to prototype to actual product development and bring the
Right,
product to life. Because
right,
usually for our toys, our development cycle is usually less than a year.
right,
So it
right.
doesn't take 2.5 years for us at
Well,
least. So
I mean, that was particular for this one. Typically, it takes about a year and a half from the time we design or sign a game to get from signing the game to have the games on the shelf. The thing that takes the longest time is manufacturing, obviously.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
we'll do a few months of development, and then we'll have the Kickstarter campaign. And right after the Kickstarter campaign, we will send the game to the manufacturer, and from there, usually it's about 4 or 5 months
Hmm.
till the games are on the
See,
shelves.
I see, I see, I see. And like also it lead to one of my question is like how do you incorporate as many educational element into your games when you are like doing the design and like how do you do that and how is your process work?
So one of the things I learned as a teacher is when you are purposely pushing the curriculum onto kids, they don't learn in
Yeah.
the same way as if you are sneaking it in. Um, and
Yeah.
and often when kids are playing a game, they don't actually realize that they're learning things. And they're learning things because they're pushing themselves to learn it, not because
True.
somebody's teaching that or, like pouring
Hmm.
the information into their brains.
Yes, yes, for sure.
So which is really exciting. So essentially, our games, like every game is mathematics. Whether you even if you're playing word games, it's
Yeah.
all about mathematics. So kids don't really realize that. They also don't realize that they're strategizing. They're always strategizing. That's not
Hmm.
something you can actually teach a kid in a classroom. So those
Correct.
two things I think are very hidden.
Hmm.
We don't purposely try to put the education in unless it's something like Fossilis, for example. So each of the dinosaur cards, they're actual dinosaurs that existed, have scientific information about it on the card.
Hmm.
And I have found that kids who play the game become interested in one or two dinosaurs and start researching.
Hmm.
And so you
Okay.
can't teach that. You can't really teach them to be excited about that stuff either. So
Good.
whatever is in the game that is educational is all sort of by accident. We don't
Hmm.
try to do that on purpose. That
I
being
see.
said, for example, Dice Veggies, which is one of our latest games,
Hmm.
we actually have uh, lessons for teachers that they can use in their classrooms.
Hmm.
So one of the things that you have to do on your turn is cut away dice from the block. And when you
Yeah.
cut away those dice, you can only cut up to 10 of the dots. And
Mm.
so one of the things I used to teach when I was teaching grade 1 and grade 2 was how to make tens. And so
Hmm.
that would
Yeah.
it's very easy.
Sure.
Greater than, less than also because you can cut away less than 10 dots. And
Hmm.
so I didn't want to make this game because it was going to be educational, it just happened to be there. So,
Hmm.
when a teacher asks me,
Right.
"What is your game that, teaches this thing?" I'll look at my catalog and I'll say, "You can use these 2 games for that."
Hmm.
And I find with kids, those are the games they're most engaged in,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and that they want to play again. Yeah,
Because I guess the core premise is still trying to make it as entertaining, interactive, so they keep
exactly.
them engaged, so they can keep on playing, obviously. So and
Yeah,
then of course the education component kind of come naturally as you are designing the game as well.
right,
So okay.
exactly.
So as well, kind of winding down and kind of toward the end of the podcast here, I have a few more questions. Really, kind of like a segue to the question you just answered about the educational component. Like, what is your vision for your company in the next 3 years, in particular on the product you are going to push out? And what is your vision and creating more board games that is kind of an intersection between, of course, educational and also family entertainment
Mhm.
going forward?
Um, well, I'm always thinking about how, games will play in an educational setting,
Mm,
because I've had them in my classroom, and I know the ones that work and the ones that don't. Um, my goal for the next few years is to create more lessons for that teachers can use in their
Mhm.
classroom. And we're starting a program where you can download the lesson and also get 10% off in our web store.
Okay.
And the reason we want to do that is because we want teachers to be using the games for the education that's in them, and
Mm,
see where that learning takes place.
got it.
It is something I've wanted to do for a very long time, but I haven't had the capacity to do it because I had 2 full-time jobs, and now I'm moving into, I still want to be part of education,
Yeah, yeah.
but I'm making the games now. So that's a big part of what we're doing over the next little while, is trying to get the games into the classroom. But I
Mm,
also know that when a kid is in a classroom and they're playing a game that's fun, and the teacher has told them, "Well, you actually learned these things," they're gonna go home and say, "I played Dice Veggies today, and I learned how to make tens using a 6 and a 4 and a 5 and a 5 and a 2," well, and it won't be 2 and an 8 because there's no 8 on a die, but, so these are the different ways you can make 10, and that might spark the parents into purchasing the game as well, and having that be part of what they do as a family, play the game as a family. So I really do see a really huge bridge between what's happening in the classroom and what can happen at home as well.
got it. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. And this is the question I ask every single guest is if you have to share just one piece of advice with someone that's getting started in the toy industry, what would that be?
That would be, find people you know who are in the toy industry and ask lots of questions.
I love
There
that.
is there is no shame in getting help from people, and
Yeah,
when I started out, it was all about asking questions and
yeah.
trying to gain the knowledge that people who are already there and who are already successful has already gained.
Mm,
I really do believe that, we are in an industry that makes people happy,
mhm,
and I feel that way about the people within the industry as well. People wanna
mm.
share. They love
Yeah.
to share. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, that's a really good piece of advice. And the best way to learn is learn from other people's mistake
that's
as
right.
well.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah,
Very true.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I make a lot of mistake over the years since I started myself. So yeah, so where can people find you? Where can the listener audience find you?
So we are kidstablebg.com. That is our website. Also, we are on Instagram and X and Facebook. On Instagram and X, we're Kids Table BG. And on Facebook, we're Kids Table Board Gaming. And if you want to ask me questions, or would love to hear from you about pitching us a game, if you
Mhm.
wanted to do that, you can contact us through any of those methods.
And are you attending Astra
Yes,
later?
I will be there. Yep.
Okay, I will
Yeah.
see you there in
Oh,
person.
great. Great.
Yeah, we have
Wonderful.
a booth there. 3303 is our booth this year. So
Great.
yeah.
We're 931. So
Okay,
we're
perfect.
far from each other, but I'll find you. Okay.
I'll walk the show too, so
Okay. Okay.
I'll go find you. So thank you so much for spending
Thank
time
you.
with us and sharing your story, sharing your journey. And I think like designing board game is definitely like the one you just shared. There's a lot of like step
Yeah,
to get
absolutely.
the product into
Absolutely.
life. So thank you so much for sharing
Thank
your
you.
journey with
Thank
the
you for
audience.
having me. I appreciate